Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks ordinary at first glance, yet carries decades of history and the potential to surprise even the most seasoned collectors. One small penny, minted over 50 years ago, hides stories of an era, subtle design quirks, and rare moments that make it stand out from the millions of coins produced every year. Today, we're diving into the world of the 1968 Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that might be tucked away in your drawer or piggy bank without you even realizing its significance. The 1968 Lincoln penny is a small copper-plated coin, part of the long-running series honoring Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln pennies have been a staple of American currency since 1909, and each year's minting tells a story about the economy, the minting process, and even the culture of the United States at the time. The S on this coin stands for the San Francisco Mint, which produced a limited portion of the total pennies for that year. For collectors, that little letter is more than a mark. It's a clue that the coin might be worth more than its face value. In 1968, America was in the midst of tremendous social and political change. The country was grappling with civil rights movements, a controversial war overseas, and a space race that captured imaginations across the nation. Despite the turbulence, the U.S. Mint continued its steady work of producing coins for everyday use. The Lincoln penny of that year was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a standard composition for the time. Its design remained familiar to millions, the profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a tribute to the 16th president, and on the reverse, the wheat ears that had been a hallmark of the series until 1958, though by 1968, the reverse had transitioned to the Lincoln Memorial design. What makes the 1968 penny particularly interesting is its place in minting history. While hundreds of millions of pennies were made that year across all U.S. mints, the San Francisco Mint produced a relatively small number, mostly intended for collectors or proof sets. Proof coins were specially struck, polished, and inspected, making them shiny, detailed, and highly sought after. But even among the circulation coins, subtle variations and errors can turn a seemingly common penny into a collector's treasure. Some 1968 pennies display doubling on the date or the mint mark, a phenomenon known as a double die. Others might have minor die cracks or off-center strikes. These imperfections, while rare, can drastically increase the coin's value, because collectors prize uniqueness in coins that have circulated so widely. So why is this penny considered rare or valuable today? The answer lies in scarcity and condition. While millions of Lincoln pennies were minted in 1968, the Mint Mark coins were produced in much smaller quantities. Additionally, very few have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Coins that show no wear, with sharp details on Lincoln's face and the memorial on the back, are far more desirable than ones that have been worn smooth over decades. For those lucky enough to find a 1968 Lincoln penny in near-perfect condition, the market value can be significant, especially if it possesses one of the rare errors collectors chase. Real auction records illustrate just how much collectors are willing to pay. Standard circulated examples of the 1968 penny might only fetch a few dollars. However, proof coins or uncirculated coins graded highly by professional services can reach hundreds, and in some rare cases, thousands of dollars if they feature a recognized minting error. There have been instances where coins with slight die doubling or exceptionally sharp strikes were sold online or at coin shows for several $100s, reflecting not just the rarity but also the collector's desire to own a piece of history that is both tangible and aesthetically pleasing. Identifying a genuine 1968 penny is relatively straightforward if you know what to look for. The mint mark, located just below the date on the obverse side, should be a clear, small S. Proof coins will have a mirrored, polished background and frosted raised features, creating a striking contrast. Circulated coins will have wear, but even then, a sharp, well-centered mint mark and clear date can indicate a higher quality coin. Collectors are advised to check the edges, the strike quality, and any unusual markings, because fakes or altered coins occasionally appear in the market. Trusted grading services can verify authenticity and condition, giving collectors confidence that their investment is real. There are also some fun facts that make this penny more than just a piece of metal. For example, 1968 marked the third year that pennies were minted with the updated Lincoln Memorial reverse design. It was also a year when the U.S. was transitioning toward modern coin production techniques, experimenting with more precise dies and better minting presses. And while the coin may seem small and unassuming, it represents a time capsule of America in the late 1960s, a reminder of both the everyday life of ordinary people and the extraordinary history unfolding around them. Collectors are drawn to the 1968 Lincoln penny for many reasons. Some appreciate the historical significance, enjoying the idea of holding a coin minted during such a pivotal era. Others are captivated by the thrill of finding a rare variant or error, the excitement of spotting a subtle doubling or unusual strike. Many simply love the artistry, the sharp details of Lincoln's portrait, the symmetry of the memorial on the reverse, the warm copper tones that deepen over decades. For all these reasons, this coin remains a staple in collections across the country, admired for both its aesthetic appeal and its potential financial value. In the end, the 1968 Lincoln penny is much more than a 1-cent piece. It's a story frozen in metal, a connection to history, and for some, a small yet tangible investment. Whether you find one in a jar, inherited from a relative, or carefully selected from a collector's shop, it carries the charm of rarity, the intrigue of errors, and the satisfaction of holding a piece of American history. So next time you come across a seemingly ordinary penny, take a closer look. You might just be holding a coin with a story that stretches back more than half a century, a coin that could surprise you with its hidden value and historical significance. The 1968 Lincoln penny is waiting quietly in drawers, wallets, and collections, ready to reveal its secrets to those who notice the small details, who understand the beauty of rarity, and who appreciate the quiet stories hidden in everyday objects. Every coin has a story, and this one might just be your next discovery. Imagine holding a small piece of history in the palm of your hand, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but could carry secrets worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One such coin is the 1968 Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a seemingly simple copper-plated cent that has quietly fascinated collectors and history enthusiasts for decades. Today, we're going to uncover why this little coin has captured so much attention, its story, its unique features, and what makes it a treasure to those who know what to look for. The 1968 Lincoln penny is part of the long-running series of Lincoln cents, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The Mint mark tells us it was struck at the San Francisco Mint, one of the 3 major U.S. mints at the time, along with Philadelphia and Denver. While pennies are the most common coins we see every day, this particular issue stands out to collectors for several reasons that go beyond its face value. To understand this coin, it helps to know a bit about the context of 1968. America was going through a period of change, both socially and economically. The coinage of the era reflects that moment in history, with materials, minting techniques, and design choices influenced by practicality and tradition. The 1968 Lincoln penny is made primarily of copper, with a small amount of zinc, a composition that had been standard for decades. Its obverse features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, showing the president in profile with his solemn expression. The reverse carries the classic Lincoln memorial design, introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. One thing that makes the 1968 penny particularly interesting to collectors is its place in the San Francisco Mint's production. Unlike the more numerous Philadelphia and Denver coins, San Francisco often produced coins in smaller quantities. This can make certain years and mint mark combinations rarer, especially in higher grades, meaning coins that are well preserved with minimal wear. Coins from the San Francisco Mint were also produced for both circulation and proof sets, which were specially made for collectors. These proof coins were struck with extra care, giving them a sharper, more detailed appearance that many numismatists find highly desirable. Another point of curiosity for this coin is the occasional minting errors that collectors look for. While the 1968 Lincoln penny is not widely known for major errors, subtle variations like double dies, off-center strikes, or minor planchet imperfections can appear. Even a small anomaly can dramatically increase a coin's value because collectors prize uniqueness and rarity. For instance, a coin with a slightly misaligned mint mark or unusual die characteristics could fetch significantly more than a standard 1968 penny in a similar condition. So why do collectors care so much about this specific coin? Part of the appeal lies in scarcity. While millions of 1968 pennies were minted, only a fraction came from the San Francisco Mint and survived in high-grade condition. Coins that are uncirculated, with crisp details and no signs of wear, are especially sought after. Condition matters greatly in numismatics, and the 1968 penny offers an opportunity for collectors to own a piece of history that is both accessible and potentially valuable. To illustrate this, consider some real-world examples. Coins graded by professional services, such as PCGS or NGC, have been known to sell for hundreds of dollars, even for modestly circulated examples. Uncirculated specimens with proof-like qualities or unusual die variations have sold for over $1,000 at auctions. These numbers might seem high for a penny, but the coin market values rarity, condition, and historical significance above face value. Owning a 1968 penny in top condition is like holding a miniature time capsule from a specific moment in American history. Identifying a real 1968 Lincoln penny is straightforward once you know what to look for. First, examine the mint mark. The S should appear just below the date on the obverse side of the coin. Authentic coins have consistent font, spacing, and placement of the mint mark. The metal composition is another clue. Real coins have a solid copper appearance with a slight reddish-brown tone if uncirculated. Watch for counterfeit or altered coins, which might have added mint marks or artificially polished surfaces. Collectors often rely on weight, sound, and visual inspection under magnification to confirm authenticity. Having the coin professionally graded and certified adds a layer of confidence and often increases its market value. There are also some fascinating, lesser-known facts about the 1968 penny that make it a joy for enthusiasts. For example, the San Francisco Mint during this period was experimenting with improved minting techniques to create coins with sharper details and longer-lasting dies. Some of these coins, especially proof strikes, have a mirror-like finish on the fields with frosted relief on Lincoln's portrait, a feature that sets them apart from ordinary circulated pennies. This combination of artistry and industrial precision makes collecting these coins a way to appreciate both history and craftsmanship. Collectors also love the story behind the coin. The Lincoln cent is more than just currency. It's a symbol of American history, resilience, and identity. Owning a 1968 penny connects someone directly to that narrative. It's a tangible piece of the late 1960s, a decade of transformation in America, reflecting both the era's economy and the enduring respect for Lincoln's legacy. For many, collecting these pennies is not just about monetary gain. It's about preserving history, enjoying the thrill of discovery, and participating in a community that values stories as much as silver and copper. Another surprising detail is how these pennies continue to circulate in popular culture. Some collectors enjoy hunting through rolls of change at banks, searching for high-grade 1968 pennies, or visiting coin shows and auctions to compare specimens. Others track sales online, fascinated by how a tiny copper disc can fluctuate in value depending on condition, rarity, and collector demand. The excitement comes from knowing that even a coin found under a couch cushion could turn out to be a significant historical artifact. Ultimately, the 1968 Lincoln penny endures as a favorite among collectors because it combines accessibility, historical significance, and the thrill of rarity. It may not be as legendary as the 1909 VDB or 1955 double-die pennies, but its understated charm and occasional anomalies make it a coin worth noticing. Whether tucked away in a collector's album, professionally graded, or discovered unexpectedly in circulation, it represents a small but meaningful connection to American history. So next time you see a 1968 Lincoln penny, take a closer look. Examine the details, feel the weight, and consider its journey from the San Francisco Mint to your hand. There could be hidden stories etched in the copper, subtle variations that make it one of the more intriguing coins from the late 1960s. It's more than just a penny. It's a reminder that history can be found in the smallest places, waiting for those curious enough to notice. Perhaps the coin you hold today could be tomorrow's prized collector's item, a tiny but enduring bridge between the past and the present, quietly carrying the legacy of Abraham Lincoln and the era it came from. The story of the 1968 Lincoln penny continues with each discovery, each careful examination, and each collector who appreciates its quiet rarity. And maybe, just maybe, The next time you glance at a seemingly ordinary penny, you'll wonder if it hides a story as rich and fascinating as this one. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary that most people pass it by without a second thought, yet one small detail could make it worth thousands of dollars. A coin that quietly slipped through history, hiding a secret that only the sharpest collectors notice. This is the story of the 1972 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that seems simple but carries a legacy collectors can't ignore. The 1972 Lincoln penny is a familiar piece of American currency. Most of us grew up with it jingling in our pockets or stuffed into coin jars at home. It features the classic image of Abraham Lincoln on the front, facing right, his thoughtful expression carved into copper. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands as a tribute to the 16th president, a design that has been part of the 1-cent coin since 1959. But there's something unusual about the 1972 penny. Some coins from that year were struck without the familiar mint mark that usually indicates where they were made. And that small absence can change the story and the value of this coin dramatically. To understand why the 1972 no mint mark penny is special, we need to look back at its history. In 1972, the United States Mint was producing coins at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most pennies from Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while Denver coins had a small D, and San Francisco coins an S. However, some coins produced in Philadelphia that year display subtle differences in how they were struck, sometimes with tiny errors or variations in the finish. These nuances are what collectors watch for. While the penny may look ordinary, every detail tells a story about the moment it was made, the technology used, and the hands that handled it. The 1972 Lincoln penny is made primarily of copper, with a composition that had returned to nearly pure copper by that time after temporary changes during the 1940s due to wartime needs. This gives it a warm, reddish tone that collectors admire. The obverse, or front, shows Lincoln's profile, detailed and dignified. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial with intricate columns and steps, a tiny tribute to American history. But what truly sets the 1972 no-mint mark penny apart is the rarity of certain varieties, especially those that include what experts call die errors. These are small mistakes made during the coin-making process, like doubled lettering or off-center strikes. They are not common, and that scarcity adds real value. Why is this penny considered rare or valuable? The truth is that millions of 1972 pennies were minted, but only a small fraction have survived in pristine condition, and even fewer show the subtle features that make them unique. For example, the 1972 no-mint mark penny with a double die error on the obverse can fetch hundreds, sometimes even thousands of dollars from serious collectors. The value comes from both the rarity and the story behind the coin. Collectors are drawn to items that carry a secret history that were almost invisible to the casual observer, and yet hold a hidden significance. Real-world examples show just how much these coins can be worth. A well-preserved 1972 no-mint mark penny with a notable double die error has sold at auction for over $1,200. Lesser examples, still in decent condition but without major errors, can still command hundreds of dollars from collectors who know what to look for. What's striking is that a coin that might have spent decades under a couch cushion or in a family coin jar could suddenly become a prized possession worth more than most people imagine. But how can you tell if a 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is genuine? The first step is to examine it closely with good lighting and, ideally, a magnifying glass. Authentic coins will show subtle details in Lincoln's profile, the lettering, and the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Errors like doubling on the letters, slightly misaligned strikes, or unusual surface textures are usually consistent with official minting mistakes, not fakes. Be cautious of coins that seem too perfect or have markings that appear artificially engraved. Counterfeiters sometimes try to mimic these rare features. Comparing your coin to verified images from trusted numismatic sources is an essential step. There are also some fun and surprising details about this coin. For instance, 1972 marked the 13th year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design. That design would remain on pennies for more than 4 decades, making any variations within that period particularly interesting to collectors. Some 1972 pennies show subtle differences in color or patina, depending on where they were stored or how they circulated. A coin kept in a protective case for decades might still have a deep red sheen, while one passed around in everyday change may have a softer, worn look. Each coin tells its own story of use, care, and time. Collectors love the 1972 no-mint mark penny not just for its potential value, but because it represents a moment in American history. It's a tangible piece of 1972, a year of cultural change, political events, and everyday life in the United States. Holding it is like holding a small window into the past. It's not just a piece of metal. It's a connection to the past, a testament to craftsmanship, and a challenge to those who search for the hidden gems that most people overlook. There's something almost magical about finding a coin like this unexpectedly. Could be in a jar of old coins, tucked away in a drawer, or even still in circulation, blending in with the change in your pocket. The excitement comes from knowing that a seemingly ordinary object carries a story, a history, and perhaps even significant value. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a reminder that sometimes the most remarkable treasures are hiding in plain sight. As we wrap up, remember that this penny is more than a collectible. It's a story, a mystery, and a piece of history. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who simply finds coins fascinating, the 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny invites curiosity. What other secrets could be hiding in the coins you see every day? How many unnoticed treasures are tucked into drawers, jars, and wallets, waiting for someone to recognize their worth? The answer might be just a glance away, in the palm of your hand, in the shape of a simple, familiar coin. Next time you reach for a penny, take a moment to look closer. History, value, and intrigue may be waiting where you least expect it. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny proves that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest secrets. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that seems ordinary at first glance. It's a simple, copper-colored penny, the kind you might have found in your pocket or under a couch cushion. But what if I told you that one small detail, or the lack of one, could make this penny worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars to the right collector? Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of the 1976 Lincoln penny with no-mint mark, a coin that carries a secret history and a quiet power to capture the attention of collectors across the United States. The 1976 Lincoln penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent, is one of the most recognized coins in American history. For decades, the profile of Abraham Lincoln has appeared on the obverse or front of the penny, honoring the 16th President of the United States and reminding us of the enduring legacy of his leadership. But the 1976 penny is unique, not only because it came at a time when the nation was celebrating its bicentennial, but also because some coins from this year were minted with a curious anomaly. No mint mark at all. To understand why this is so intriguing, let's step back and look at the history. In 1976, the United States celebrated 200 years since the Declaration of Independence. It was a year of national pride, special coins, and commemorations. For the Lincoln penny, it was a moment in a long line of routine minting, but still significant. Most pennies produced in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while those minted in Denver bore a D, and San Francisco pennies an S. Mint marks indicate the location where a coin was produced, which matters to collectors because certain mints produced fewer coins, making some versions rarer than others. In the case of the 1976 Lincoln penny, the no-mint mark variety from Philadelphia became a quiet star in the numismatic world, especially for those who notice subtle differences and errors. The 1976 penny was made primarily of copper-plated zinc, a combination that gives it the classic reddish-gold tone we associate with American pennies from that era. This was during a period when the U.S. Mint had already transitioned away from the heavier, solid copper pennies of earlier decades. The design itself remained familiar: Lincoln's dignified profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But hidden in plain sight, small production errors created variations that caught the eye of collectors. Some coins have double dies, faint scratches, or unusually clear details. Each of these quirks can elevate a penny from a common piece of pocket change to a valuable collectible. So why is the 1976 no-mint mark penny considered rare? It isn't rare in the sense that only a few were made. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia Mint that year. What makes it special is the keen eye of collectors who look for coins in pristine condition, or those that show slight errors or unusual features. Coins that are flawless, with sharp details and full luster, are rare to find in circulation. Combine that with the fact that some pennies from this year carry minor die variations or missing elements, and suddenly a coin that looks ordinary can be worth much more than face value. Real auction examples give us a clear picture of its value. While most 1976 pennies with no mint mark may trade for just a few cents to a few dollars, certain coins in exceptional condition or with unique characteristics have fetched hundreds, even thousands of dollars at collector auctions. One example involved a nearly flawless 1976 no-mint mark penny that exhibited an unusually strong strike and vibrant coloration. Collectors bid aggressively, recognizing the coin not just for its age, but for its state of preservation, a tangible link to the past that could never be replicated. These sales highlight an important truth in coin collecting. Condition and rarity, even in subtle forms, drive value. Identifying a genuine 1976 no-mint mark penny requires attention to detail. First, examine the obverse side carefully. The absence of a mint mark below the date is expected for Philadelphia coins, but the coin's weight, color, and clarity of the details are all clues. Genuine coins will have consistent edges, precise lettering, and the familiar texture of copper-plated zinc. Counterfeit or altered coins sometimes show uneven surfaces, unusually bright or dull coloring, or imprecise details in Lincoln's face or the memorial on the reverse. Using a magnifying glass or a coin loop helps to spot any anomalies. Collectors also pay attention to die cracks, doubling, or faint errors that often appear in authentic coins but are difficult to reproduce convincingly. Beyond its rarity, the 1976 no-mint mark penny has several fascinating surprises that most people overlook. Did you know that this coin came out during a period when the U.S. Mint experimented with different metals and minting techniques? Some coins from this era have tiny variations in color and texture, creating subtle, almost invisible patterns that can only be seen under strong light or magnification. Also, because 1976 was a bicentennial year, collectors often associate it with a sense of national pride. Owning this coin isn't just about money. It's about holding a small piece of American history in your hand, a reminder of the year when the country celebrated 200 years of independence. Collectors love this coin today for many reasons. First, it represents a moment in time, a snapshot of 1976 frozen in copper and zinc. Second, it appeals to both beginner collectors, who appreciate its recognizability, and seasoned numismatists, who treasure its minor variations and potential for value growth. Unlike coins from centuries ago that can feel distant, the 1976 penny is still within living memory. Many collectors remember seeing these pennies in circulation as children, giving the coin a personal, almost nostalgic appeal. It's accessible yet still capable of surprising even experienced collectors with its potential worth. The story of the 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln penny also reflects a broader truth about coin collecting. Even the smallest, most familiar coins can hide secrets. What seems like an ordinary penny in your pocket may have characteristics that make it highly sought after. Every scratch, every slight color variation, and every detail in the strike tells a story. And for collectors, that story is as valuable as the metal itself. The thrill lies in discovery, finding that one coin that stands out from thousands of others, the one that connects you to history and may even hold unexpected value. As we explore coins like the 1976 Lincoln penny, it becomes clear why some pieces of pocket change capture the imagination of collectors worldwide. This coin reminds us that history can be found in the most everyday objects, that curiosity and careful observation can transform a common item into a treasure, and that even a simple penny can hold the promise of discovery. So next time you come across a 1976 penny, take a closer look. Examine it, appreciate it, and wonder if it might be one of those special coins that carries more than just copper and zinc. Maybe a piece of history waiting quietly to be recognized. Could a coin in your collection be worth more than you realize? The 1976 no-mint mark Lincoln penny shows that treasures are often hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with an eye for detail to notice. Whether you're a casual observer or a serious collector, every coin has a story, and sometimes the most unassuming pennies have the most extraordinary tales. So keep looking, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, the next penny you hold could be a doorway to history, value, and the thrill of discovery. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that could be worth hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars, yet most people pass it by every day without a second thought. A coin so ordinary that it often hides in loose change, yet so extraordinary that collectors will pay top dollar to add it to their collections. Today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing coins in modern American history, the 1977 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. You might think it's just another penny, but this small piece of copper has a story that surprises even experienced collectors. The 1977 Lincoln penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent, is part of a long line of pennies that have been minted in the United States since 1909, commemorating President Abraham Lincoln. For decades, these pennies were produced in huge quantities, but every so often, an anomaly slips through the minting process, a flaw that turns an ordinary coin into a highly sought-after collectible. In 1977, something unusual happened that gave rise to a rare version of this familiar coin. A penny without a mint mark. A mint mark is a small letter stamped on a coin indicating where it was produced. For pennies, the most common mint marks are D for Denver and S for San Francisco. The absence of a mint mark usually indicates it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not use a mint mark for pennies during that period. However, in 1977, a small number of coins were released with unusual characteristics. Some circulated without a mint mark due to production errors, while others were struck in limited batches that somehow escaped notice. The result is a coin that collectors today prize for its subtle difference from the everyday penny. The 1977 Lincoln penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. It carries the familiar design created by Victor David Brenner, Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. This design had been used since 1959, marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. At first glance, the 1977 penny might appear identical to any other coin from the same year. But look closely, and you'll see that its lack of a mint mark sets it apart. For collectors, that small detail transforms a common coin into a rare collectible. While most 1977 pennies are worth only their face value, those without a mint mark have caught the attention of the numismatic world. These coins are considered rare not because millions weren't made, but because the absence of the mint mark was unusual and not widely recognized at the time. Over the years, as coin collectors began to study the coins more carefully, they realized that these no-mint mark pennies were an anomaly worth preserving. Some of the most well-preserved examples have been graded in mint condition, making them even more desirable. Real auction results show just how valuable these coins can be. In recent years, 1977 no-mint mark pennies in near-perfect condition have sold for hundreds of dollars, with some exceptional specimens fetching even higher prices. One collector reported acquiring a coin graded MS-65, considered a superb uncirculated condition, for over $600. While not every coin will reach these heights, the market consistently shows that rarity and condition can turn a seemingly insignificant penny into a potentially lucrative collectible. Identifying a genuine 1977 no-mint mark penny is straightforward if you know what to look for, but caution is always necessary. Genuine coins will have the correct metal composition and weight of a standard 1977 penny. Examine the obverse closely. The details in Lincoln's profile should be sharp, and the absence of a mint mark should be consistent with the Philadelphia design of the period. Be wary of altered coins, where someone may have attempted to remove a mint mark or polish the surface to simulate rarity. Collectors often use magnification, comparison with verified examples, and even professional grading services to confirm authenticity. One surprising detail about this penny is that its rarity isn't just about the mint mark. Some coins also display subtle variations, like double dies or minor die cracks, which occur when the coin is struck slightly differently than usual. While these imperfections are not common, they add an extra layer of interest and value for collectors. Even the smallest anomalies can make a coin highly collectible, as numismatists love discovering hidden quirks that tell a story about the coin's journey from the mint to your pocket. Collectors also love the 1977 no-mint mark penny for its connection to history. It represents a snapshot of American life in the late 1970s, a time of cultural shifts and economic change. In a way, each coin carries the past in its copper and zinc composition. Holding one of these pennies is like holding a piece of living history, a tangible connection to the era when your parents or grandparents might have been using the same coin in daily life. It's this combination of historical significance, rarity, and subtle beauty that makes the coin so appealing. Another fun fact is that many of these pennies can still be found in circulation if you know where to look. While high-grade coins are often purchased and preserved by collectors, lower-grade examples sometimes appear in jars of spare change or forgotten drawers. This means that even casual coin enthusiasts have a chance to stumble upon a hidden treasure without traveling to an auction or visiting a coin show. The thrill of discovery is part of what makes coin collecting so addictive. Today, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny continues to be highly sought after. Collectors prize it not just for its monetary value, but for the story it tells. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary items, when examined closely, can reveal extraordinary surprises. For many, it represents the joy of uncovering something rare, the satisfaction of completing a collection, and the excitement of owning a piece of history. So next time you're sorting through pennies or checking loose change, take a moment to look closely. That unassuming coin might just be more than it appears. The 1977 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is a small object with a big story, a coin that bridges past and present, and a reminder that treasures can hide in the most everyday places. Who knows, your next pocket change might be the very penny that collectors dream of finding. Keep looking, because history has a way of hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary in your hand, yet so rare that it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. A small piece of copper that, to most people, is just another penny. But to collectors, it's a treasure that sparks excitement, curiosity, and even life-changing opportunities. One coin in particular has captured the fascination of coin enthusiasts across the United States. The 1980 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Today, we'll dive deep into this fascinating coin, uncover its story, and reveal why it's so highly sought after. The 1980 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is, at first glance, a typical 1-cent coin. On its front, or obverse, it features the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, a design that has graced U.S. pennies for over a century. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial, a tribute to the 16th president, and like any penny from this era, it's small, copper-colored, and easy to overlook. But appearances can be deceiving. Among the millions of pennies minted in 1980, a tiny fraction were produced without a mint mark, a subtle detail that turns this ordinary coin into a collector's gem. To understand why this coin is so special, we need to look at its history. The year 1980 was a time of transition for the United States Mint. The U.S. was still producing most of its pennies in Philadelphia, but coins from that facility were normally marked with no mint symbol, while those produced in Denver carried a D mark. The 1980 penny was struck during this routine, but for reasons that remain partly unclear, a small number of pennies intended for general circulation were minted in Philadelphia with inconsistencies in the mint mark process. This created the so-called no mint mark variation that collectors prize today. The design of the 1980 penny remained true to tradition. The obverse, as always, displays Lincoln's profile, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate his 100th birthday. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design added in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The coin is made of a copper-zinc alloy, with 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it a distinct reddish-brown hue that has slightly darkened over the decades. What makes the 1980 no mint mark penny particularly interesting isn't just its composition or design, but the subtle imperfections that make it rare. Small variations like double dies, weak strikes, or the absence of the mint mark where it should be, transform an everyday penny into a collectible item. So why is this penny rare? Unlike older coins from the early 1900s or mid-century, 1980 pennies were minted in enormous quantities. Millions of them were distributed to banks and eventually into general circulation, making them abundant. However, the no mint mark variation is exceedingly uncommon. Estimates suggest only a few thousand exist, meaning the odds of finding one in your pocket change are incredibly slim. This scarcity is what drives collectors to seek out this coin, sometimes paying significant sums to secure one for their collection. Auction results and collector sales illustrate just how valuable the 1980 no mint Mark Lincoln penny can be. Some examples, especially those in near-perfect condition with sharp details and minimal wear, have sold for thousands of dollars at specialty coin auctions. High-grade coins, preserved almost as they were on the day they were minted, can command even higher prices. This is why collectors often sift through bags of circulated coins or carefully inspect rolls straight from the bank, hoping to discover one of these hidden treasures. Identifying a genuine 1980 no mint mark penny requires attention to detail. First, the coin should be checked for its mint mark, or rather, the absence of it. The mint mark area on the obverse, just below the date, should appear completely blank. Comparing the coin to a standard 1980 penny with a D mark can help spot the difference. Weight, color, and overall strike quality are also indicators. Collectors sometimes use magnification to examine the date, lettering, and surfaces for signs of tampering or artificial alterations. Genuine coins will have uniform surfaces and consistent design elements, whereas fakes or modified coins may show uneven spacing, scratches, or added markings. Knowing these subtle cues can save a collector from costly mistakes. Beyond rarity and value, the 1980 no mint Mark Lincoln penny holds some fascinating surprises. For one, many people assume a coin must be extremely old to be valuable, but this penny challenges that notion. It also highlights how tiny production anomalies, almost invisible to the casual observer, can turn a mundane object into a collectible artifact. Another interesting detail is that some of these coins, despite being circulated for decades, still maintain a remarkable sheen, especially if they were stored carefully. These coins serve as a bridge between everyday life and numismatic history, reminding us that value often hides in plain sight. Collectors love the 1980 no mint Mark Lincoln penny for more than just its monetary worth. It represents a story, a puzzle to solve, and a connection to the past. Owning one is like holding a piece of history that passed through countless hands, survived decades of circulation, and emerged as something exceptional. The coin symbolizes patience, attention to detail, and the thrill of discovery that drives the world of coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about preserving a fragment of American history and cherishing the unexpected surprises the past has left behind. Even today, this coin continues to fascinate collectors and casual enthusiasts alike. Each 1980 no mint mark penny carries a sense of mystery. How did it survive? Where did it come from? Could the one in your drawer or jar be the next treasure found at auction? These questions are part of the coin's enduring appeal, fueling curiosity and excitement for anyone who takes the time to look a little closer at their change. As we wrap up, consider this. A coin that most people would dismiss as a single cent could be a doorway to history, wealth, and discovery. The 1980 Lincoln penny with no mint mark reminds us that rarity isn't always about age. It's about small differences, careful observation, and the stories hidden in everyday objects. The next time you reach for a penny, take a moment to look. That tiny piece of metal could be more remarkable than you ever imagined. Keep searching, keep questioning, and maybe, just maybe, you'll hold a piece of history that others only dream about. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that millions of Americans have passed over every day, and yet this very coin could be worth thousands. A simple copper penny, familiar to anyone who has ever used cash, suddenly becomes an object of intrigue, mystery, and even life-changing value. Today, we're diving into one of the most talked-about coins in modern U.S. history, the 1982 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it might look like any ordinary penny, but look closer, and you'll see a story that collectors can't stop talking about. The 1982 Lincoln penny is part of a long line of 1-cent coins featuring the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, whose profile has graced the penny since 1909. For over 70 years, these pennies have been a constant in American wallets. But the 1982 penny is unique, sitting at a crossroads in the history of coin production. This was the year the U.S. Mint made a major change in the materials used for pennies, making certain coins from zinc instead of the traditional copper. And among these changes, some coins were produced without the familiar mint mark, an element that can make a coin unexpectedly valuable. The history of the 1982 penny is fascinating because it represents a transitional period. For most of the 20th century, pennies were made almost entirely from copper. But in 1982, copper prices were skyrocketing, making it too expensive to produce coins from solid copper. The U.S. Mint had to make a decision. The solution was to switch to a core of zinc with a thin copper plating, reducing production costs while keeping the coin familiar to the public. This meant that coins from 1982 can be either 95% copper or mostly zinc, depending on when during the year they were minted. The lack of a mint mark on some of these coins adds a layer of rarity that collectors find irresistible. The design of the 1982 penny itself didn't change. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's profile remains timeless, facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, liberty to the left, and the year 1982 prominently displayed. The back features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that has remained unchanged since 1959. What makes certain 1982 pennies particularly interesting is not the design, but the material and minting process. Some pennies were struck without a mint mark at the Philadelphia Mint, and some show errors like double strikes or off-center images, which can significantly increase their value. So, why is the 1982 no mint mark penny considered rare or valuable? It's a combination of factors. First, the transitional nature of the coin year means collectors are hunting for both copper and zinc varieties. Second, coins without mint marks from this year are less common, simply because most pennies were produced with the standard Philadelphia P or Denver D marks. Third, certain production errors, like misaligned dies or unusual finishes, can make a penny from 1982 stand out in a way that ordinary coins do not. Even though millions of pennies were minted that year, the combination of no mint mark, the right material, and perfect condition can make one of these pennies a sought-after collector's item. Real-world examples show just how much interest this coin generates. At auctions, a 1982 copper penny in uncirculated condition can fetch hundreds of dollars, while a rare zinc penny without a mint mark and in perfect condition could sell for even more. Collectors have reported paying from $50 to several $100s for high-grade specimens, depending on condition and rarity. Certain error coins, like ones with a noticeable off-center strike or unusual metal composition, have sold for over $1,000 at auction. These numbers demonstrate that even a coin that has spent decades in circulation can suddenly become a treasure in the right hands. Identifying a real 1982 no mint mark penny requires a careful eye. The first step is to check the material. Copper pennies are heavier, while zinc pennies are lighter, with a distinctive feel when held. Next, look closely at the date and the absence of a mint mark. Authentic coins from Philadelphia in 1982 will simply have 1982 without a P above the date. Examining the coin's surface under good lighting can reveal subtle differences in color and luster, which experienced collectors use to confirm authenticity. Counterfeit coins are rare, but it is important to buy from reputable sources or have coins graded by professional services when making a purchase. Some fun and surprising details make the 1982 penny even more intriguing. For example, that year saw some coins accidentally struck with more than one layer of copper, creating a double-struck effect that collectors call a mule coin. Others display unusual streaking or coloration due to variations in the plating process. There are even stories of pennies found in old rolls that, when examined under magnification, reveal tiny die cracks or imperfections that are invisible to casual observers. Each anomaly tells a story about the care, or sometimes the chaos, of coin production at the Philadelphia Mint in 1982. Collectors love the 1982 no mint mark penny not just for its rarity, but for the story it carries. Holding one is like holding a piece of American history, a tangible connection to the economy, the people, and even the challenges of the early 1980s. For some, it's the thrill of discovery, finding a coin in a jar of change that suddenly has enormous value. For others, it's about preserving a piece of craftsmanship and history that will never come again. Unlike modern pennies, which are mostly zinc and mass-produced, a 1982 penny with no mint mark represents a fleeting moment when the old and new worlds of coinage intersected. Even beyond collectors, the coin sparks curiosity in anyone who comes across it. Imagine a small, unassuming penny lying in a drawer, waiting decades for someone to notice that it is not just a penny, but a rare and valuable artifact. That sense of hidden potential is what makes coins like this timeless. It's a reminder that sometimes ordinary objects carry extraordinary stories, so the next time you reach for a penny, consider this. Among the millions minted in 1982, there are some without mint marks that could change a collector's day or even their life. They are a quiet reminder that history can be found in the smallest places, and that value often lies hidden in plain sight. Whether you are a seasoned collector or just someone curious about coins, the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny invites you to look closer, to explore, and to wonder what other treasures are waiting in the change we overlook every day. It's more than a coin. It's a story, a history, and a mystery all rolled into a single copper disc. And who knows, maybe the next 1982 penny you find could be the one that surprises you. Most people would never guess that a simple brown penny from the early 1990s could carry a story worth telling. Yet somewhere right now, a 1993 Lincoln penny with a small D mint mark may be sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or even your pocket, holding details that many people have never noticed before. Today, we're exploring the 1993 D mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. But once you understand why it was made, how it fits into American history, and what collectors search for on this exact coin, it becomes far more interesting than its 1-cent face value suggests. The 1993 D Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced by the United States Mint at the Denver Mint. The small D below the date tells us where it was struck. By 1993, the Lincoln Memorial penny design had already been in circulation for more than 3 decades, and it was one of the most familiar coins Americans used every single day. This coin was minted during a time when the United States was changing rapidly. The early 1990s were years of economic recovery, new technology, and major cultural shifts. While computers and the internet were beginning to enter homes, the humble penny remained unchanged in design, quietly continuing its role in everyday transactions. The Lincoln penny itself has a much longer story. Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the 1-cent coin in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of his birth. That decision marked the first time a real historical person appeared on a regular U.S. circulating coin. By 1959, the design changed to show the Lincoln Memorial on the back, and that design was still being used in 1993. The 1993 D penny follows this classic design. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the words, "In God we trust," above his head. The word liberty appears to the left, and the date, 1993, is on the right. Just below the date sits the small D mint mark, identifying it as a Denver Mint coin on the back. The Lincoln Memorial stands tall in the center, with the words United States of America across the top and 1 cent at the bottom. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail many people never notice. The metal composition of the 1993 D penny is another important detail. By this time, pennies were no longer made mostly of copper. Instead, they were composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating. This change began in 1982 to reduce production costs as copper prices increased. That means the 1993 penny feels light and has a zinc core beneath its copper-colored surface. Millions of 1993 D pennies were produced. In fact, the Denver Mint struck over 6 billion Lincoln cents that year. Because of that massive number, most examples are still very common today. You'll often hear collectors say that this coin is worth face value, and for most circulated examples, that's true. So why would anyone care about a coin like this? The answer lies in condition, errors, and the human fascination with small differences that can make a big impact. While most 1993 D pennies are ordinary, collectors look for coins that stand out. One major factor is condition. A penny that has never been circulated, with bright original luster and no wear, can be far more desirable than one that's been handled for decades. Coins graded as mint state by professional services often sell for several dollars, sometimes more, depending on the grade. Errors are where things become truly interesting. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during the coin-making process. On the 1993 D penny, collectors search for off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side. They also look for double die errors, where parts of the lettering or date appear doubled because the die struck the coin more than once in slightly different positions. Another sought-after error is a clipped planchet. This happens when a piece of metal is improperly cut before striking, leaving part of the coin missing. These errors are visually obvious and often command higher prices because they are dramatic and easy to recognize. There are also cases of weak strikes, where parts of the design appear faded or incomplete, and broad strikes, where the coin spreads out wider than normal because it was struck without the collar that normally shapes it.in online auctions and coin shows. A typical circulated 1993D penny sells for 1 cent to a few cents. However, uncirculated examples graded MS65 or higher have sold for several dollars. Error coins can sell for much more, depending on the type and severity of the error. Some verified error examples have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars. Collectors value these coins not because they are ancient or made of precious metal, but because they represent mistakes that slipped through a system designed for perfection. Each error tells a story of a brief moment when the minting process went slightly off track. When it comes to identifying a genuine 1993D penny, the process is simple. First, check the date and the mint mark. The D should be small, cleanly struck, and located just below the date. Next, weigh the coin. A standard 1993 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. A significantly different weight may indicate damage or an unusual error. Look closely at the color and surface. Genuine coins will show natural wear patterns or mint luster, depending on condition. Be cautious of coins that appear altered, especially those claiming to be rare errors. Some people attempt to modify coins after they leave the mint, but trained collectors can usually spot these alterations. Magnification helps. A simple magnifying glass can reveal doubling, cracks, or unusual features that aren't visible to the naked eye. Comparing your coin to known examples from trusted sources is also a good way to learn what's normal and what's not. There are also fun facts that make the 1993D penny more interesting than it seems. For example, in 1993, the penny was already costing more than 1 cent to produce, a debate that still continues today. Despite this, the coin remained essential for pricing and transactions across the country. Another surprising detail is how many of these pennies still exist. Because they are relatively modern and widely saved, millions are still in circulation or stored away. This makes finding a 1993D penny easy, but finding one in exceptional condition much harder. Collectors also appreciate this coin as part of a complete date and mint set. Many people aim to collect one Lincoln penny from every year and every mint. In that context, the 1993D penny plays an important supporting role, representing the Denver Mint's contribution during the early 1990s for newer collectors. This coin is often a starting point. It's affordable, accessible, and teaches valuable lessons about grading, errors, and mint marks. For experienced collectors, it's a reminder that even common coins deserve a careful look. The love collectors have for the 1993D penny isn't about instant riches. It's about curiosity, patience, and the thrill of discovery. It's about checking your change and wondering if today might be the day you notice something different. And that's the real magic of coins like this. They hide in plain sight. They pass through countless hands unnoticed. But once you understand their story, you never look at them the same way again. So the next time you see a 1993 Lincoln penny with a small D beneath the date, don't dismiss it too quickly. Hold it for a moment. Look closely. Because even the most ordinary-looking coin can carry a history, a mystery, and the possibility that there's more to it than meets the eye. Most people would never look twice at a 1994 penny. It looks ordinary, it feels light, and it probably came from a handful of loose change. But what if I told you that one small detail on some 1994 Lincoln pennies has made collectors stop, stare, and sometimes pay surprising amounts of money? And the most interesting part is that millions of people already own one without realizing it. The coin we're talking about today is the 1994 no mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks just like any other modern penny. Abraham Lincoln's familiar face on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. But coins like this often hide their story in plain sight, and this one is no exception. To understand why this penny matters, we need to go back to the year 1994. The United States was producing billions of pennies every year. Pennies were still widely used for everyday purchases, and the U.S. Mint was focused on efficiency, speed, and consistency. In 1994, pennies were struck at multiple minting facilities, mainly Philadelphia and Denver. Here's where the phrase, "no mint mark," becomes important. Coins made at the Philadelphia Mint traditionally do not carry a mint mark. That means if you look under the date on a 1994 penny and see no letter at all, that coin was made in Philadelphia. This is normal, not a mistake. But normal does not always mean common in the collector world. The 1994 Lincoln penny belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series that began in 1909. By 1994, the design had been in use for decades, and most Americans didn't give it much thought. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, liberty on the left, and the date on the right. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands centered, with United States of America and 1 cent clearly visible. The metal composition is another important detail. By 1994, pennies were no longer mostly copper like older Lincoln cents. Instead, they were made of zinc with a very thin copper coating. This change happened in the early 1980s to reduce costs. As a result, a 1994 penny feels lighter than older pennies from the 1970s or earlier. This also affects how these coins age, tone, and sometimes get damaged. So if billions were made, why would anyone care about a 1994 no mint mark penny? The answer lies in condition, varieties, and errors. Most 1994 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. But collectors are not looking for average coins. They are hunting for examples that stand out. Coins that survived decades without heavy wear. Coins with sharp details, strong color, and clean surfaces. And most importantly, coins with unusual features or mistakes made during production. One of the most talked about varieties from 1994 involves double dies. This happens when the coin design is impressed slightly off-center more than once, creating a doubling effect on letters or numbers. On some 1994 pennies, collectors have noticed doubling on the date or on words like liberty or in God we trust. This doubling is not dramatic like older famous errors, but under magnification it can be clearly seen. Another area collectors examine closely is the strike quality. Some 1994 no mint mark pennies were struck with unusually strong detail. Lincoln's hair, the bow tie, and the lines in the memorial can appear sharper than usual. Coins like this are often pulled from original mint sets or carefully saved rolls and can earn high grades from professional grading services. Then there are off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. These are all production errors that can occur when machines run nonstop at high speed. A penny struck off-center might show part of the design missing. A clipped planchet might have a curved section missing from the edge. Die cracks appear as raised lines caused by damaged dies. All of these can increase value depending on how dramatic and clear the error is. Condition plays the biggest role of all. A heavily worn 1994 penny is common and inexpensive. But a 1994 no mint mark penny in near-perfect condition is a different story. Coins graded in top mint state levels, especially with bright red color, can sell for surprisingly high prices. There have been documented auction results where pristine 1994 Philadelphia pennies graded at the highest level sold for hundreds of dollars. In rare cases, exceptionally well-preserved examples with strong eye appeal have sold for even more. These are not everyday sales, but they prove that even modern pennies can become valuable under the right conditions. Collectors also pay close attention to full detail strikes. If the Lincoln Memorial lines are complete and sharp, and Lincoln's facial features are crisp, the coin becomes more desirable. Tiny differences that most people would ignore can make a major difference in the collector market. With higher prices comes the question of authenticity. Fortunately, 1994 no mint mark pennies are not commonly counterfeited because they are modern and relatively low value compared to gold or silver coins. However, altered coins do exist. Some people try to modify coins to make damage look like errors. For example, filing the edge or scratching the surface to imitate a mint mistake. To identify a real coin, start with weight. A genuine 1994 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. A strong magnet test can help too. These pennies should not stick to a magnet. Look closely at the details under magnification. Real mint errors usually show smooth metal flow and natural shapes, not sharp tool marks. If you believe you have a high-quality or unusual example, Professional grading is the safest way to confirm authenticity and value. Graded coins are sealed in protective holders and recognized worldwide by collectors. There are also some fun and surprising details about the 1994 Lincoln penny that many people don't know. For example, because the copper layer is so thin, damaged 1994 pennies sometimes show gray zinc underneath. This can make the coin look unusual and lead people to think it's rare, even when it's just worn. Another interesting fact is that many collectors today are building complete date and mint mark sets of Lincoln cents, including modern years. That means even coins from the 1990s are being actively searched for in top condition. As time passes, finding perfect examples becomes harder, not easier. The 1994 no-mint mark penny also represents a turning point in how people view modern coins. For a long time, collectors focused mostly on very old coins. But now, many realize that condition rarity can matter just as much as age. A flawless modern coin can sometimes be rarer than a worn coin from the early 1900s. Collectors love this coin because it challenges expectations. It reminds people that value doesn't always come from age alone. Sometimes it comes from survival, preservation, and tiny details that went unnoticed for years. Today, thousands of collectors still check their pocket change, old jars, and inherited collections looking for pennies like this. Not because everyone is valuable, but because one special example can stand out from millions of others. And that's what makes the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so fascinating. It's ordinary on the surface, yet full of potential. It's a coin almost everyone has seen, but very few have truly examined, so the next time you see a 1994 penny without a mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the details. Notice the color, the strike, and the condition, because sometimes history hides in the smallest places, quietly waiting for someone curious enough to notice.